And we're here again with Pat McGuigan. Thanks for joining us this morning. So with Veterans Day being this past week, let's talk about the country's finest today. You personally have had a chance to talk to a lot of soldiers, a lot of veterans over the years. Share some of those experiences with us.
Well, this past week was memorable in adding to that supply, if you will, of stories. A man named Eddy Powers came to the state capitol and spoke over lunch to a small group of staff from the legislature and a couple of us reporters who listened to him remember the honorable things and honorable ways in which his father, Eddy Powers, served in World War II. Some gripping stories, including his involvement in a group of men that liberated Dachau concentration camp, and related that that was the time that Eddy really understood what the Second World War was about and the evil that had to be defeated and that was defeated. The way Dan put it was very eloquent. He said these were men, they hated war, they were ordinary guys, they saved the world. I think that's a pretty apt description of the greatest generation. It also applies to an old friend who's passed away now, Norman Vaughn, who served in the Rainbow Division and was also a liberator. Never talked about his experiences except one night in Bible study, asked a question, and he wound up relating a story that he only shared 3 or 4 times, and it was about his experience seeing those poor people in the concentration camp and what it meant to him in understanding what he'd been fighting about. Then I remember people like Jeremiah Denton, who was a Navy aviator who served in the U.S. Senate during my time in Washington, and an absolutely unforgettable interview with him where he described the torture he endured for our sake while he was imprisoned by the North Vietnamese. Wrote a book called When Hell Was in Session. I think that's a pretty apt way to describe the experiences of some of these men. We have to tell their stories because those individuals have all gone on. We have to tell their stories so that memory doesn't die.
You personally hold Veterans Day close to your heart. Tell us a little bit about your son's experience.
Well, we lived in the eastern United States for some years, and although we were in Oklahoma at the time of 9/11, my son Stefan was attending college in Virginia, in Richmond. And when 9/11 happened, the next day, the very first opportunity, he and a few other young men were already in line waiting to sign up to serve. Eventually, he entered the Army and served in the Third Infantry Division as a combat medic. Had some remarkable and very touching experiences as he related them to me later, including saving the lives of many American men and a lot of Iraqis, including one incident in Al-Kifl, a 36-hour battle on the Euphrates River, where this Iraqi man was seriously injured, not a combatant, a civilian, but he was severely injured with a bullet shot to his hand. Stefan patched him up, and when he finished, he had taken off his gloves, his technicals as they called them, in order to be better able to take care of the man. And when he finished, as he finished, this man picked up his hand and kissed his hand. And that's an aspect of soldiering that people don't always appreciate or remember. I don't know how we raised a hero, my wife and I, but we did. And she always knew he was in the middle of all the combat. I didn't know that. I wasn't sure what was going on, but somehow she knew, and she prayed without ceasing that he would be protected, and he was, and he came home to us safe.
That's a wonderful story. Thanks for sharing it with us. As you look toward 2012, can you tell us how you think veterans issues in our military will play in the election cycle?
I think they will play in the election cycle. They maybe even should. And they will play in public policy discussions in Washington. And very succinctly, just let me say, part of the challenge we face was illustrated this week by a group of Democratic veterans, members of the Democratic Party, who gathered at the state capitol at the Veterans Memorial to lay a wreath and also to exercise their rights of free speech to complain about some of the ways and point out ways that maybe we're not adequately serving our veterans. The flip side to this is, it seems to me, even if tough choices have to be made, that we owe our veterans sustainability. We owe them a strong economic future. We have to give them the best as they gave us the best. There's a lot of heroes in our midst, and I guess the thing I advocate as the father of a veteran and the son of a now deceased veteran is go up to them and thank them for their service. A lot of people do that. You can't do it enough.
That's some great advice. Thank you for all your perspectives this morning. And if you want to hear more from Pat, you can go to his news site. That's CapitolBeatOK.com.